Leaders of the pack, let's talk about boundaries. It's a subject that so many of the men in Leader of the Pack have been bringing up. How do I create boundaries? But before we talk about how do I create boundaries, the first question is why I need to create boundaries. If you take a look at the world, there are so many situations that we actually fall into such bad traps because we haven't created boundaries. Now, the first reason that I believe people don't create boundaries is self-esteem. Who am I to tell somebody that that is where they can come to and they can't come further? Who am I to tell someone that they can't speak that way to my wife or to my kids or to me? Who am I to tell a person that they're overstepping some boundary? Who am I as anybody to actually create a boundary within my life? Well, the truth is that the world was created with boundaries. If you take a look at the animal kingdom, they are so highly protective over their boundaries. They don't turn around and say, you know what, I'm a lion, I'm not really big enough to take on somebody who's coming into my boundaries, something that's coming to attack my children or my wife or whoever it is. I'm going to fight to the death to create boundaries and to stand strong on those boundaries. An elephant is not going to walk backwards and say, you know what, you can come in and not a problem. Come eat from my tree, not a problem, right? He's going to smack you. He's going to sit on you. He's going to stamp on you. The animal kingdom is so sure of themselves when it comes to boundaries. Why is that? Because a boundary is a way to survive. Without boundaries, we don't survive. And in fact, the animal kingdom is all about survival. So that's something we can learn from animals. Have enough self-esteem. If a wild pig, if a wild pig is willing to create a boundary in order to protect their young, in order to protect their food, in order to protect their family, in order to protect whatever it is, then who are we as men who are made in the image of God to not have enough self-esteem to create boundaries? Think about it. The Garden of Eden was a boundary, right? It was a boundary that was surrounded by different rivers that ran through it and around it. There were angels that stood at the front protecting it. Man was placed in an area that had boundaries. What was a great awful thing? What was a great curse when he was banished out of the Garden of Eden? There are no boundaries in the rest of the world. So this place to start when talking about boundaries is our Garden of Eden. Where is our Garden of Eden? That's our home. Our home is the first place that us as leaders of the pack need to create boundaries. This is what comes into my house. This is what doesn't come into my house. This is what is acceptable in my home. This is what is not acceptable in my home. It's up to us as leaders of our families to make those rules and to stand strong on what they are, in order that the best things stay in our home and the worst things stay out. Now, obviously, this is things for us who are married, we should be discussing with our wife and deciding with our wife. But whose responsibility in the end is it to protect those boundaries that have been created? It's you and me, brother. It's you and me, the leaders of the pack.